Greetings and welcome to another episode of Next Gen and Lodging. I'm your host, Omari Head, founder of the National Institute for Lodging Education and one third of Next Gen and Lodging with Chris Henry and Davon Reeves. Excited to be part of the platform with CoStar and bring you all exciting content like this on the regular. Today we have a phenomenal guest and somebody who I've had the privilege to know for quite some time, somebody who I've had the opportunity to admire and get some tutelage from and some coaching and guidance, and just a really great asset to the industry, and somebody who's been a great custodian of the culture of hospitality, and to watch that evolution from operations to higher education and now doing some really, really unique and innovative programming and solving a lot of the things that the industry has been trying to figure out and coming up with really creative solutions. I'm privileged to have with me here today the executive director of AHEAD, Professor Brian Barker. I'm going to shut up and hand it over to Professor Barker so he can tell you a little bit about his story, his background, his titles. Professor Barker, what's popping, beloved? How you doing?
Oh man, that was one heck of an introduction, man. I feel extremely honored to be with you all, and this is an incredible platform that you all have. So yeah, man, I'm really grateful for this opportunity to impart a little bit of knowledge and talk a little bit about my journey and some of the things that we've just accomplished. So thrilled to be here.
Absolutely, man. So tell us what are your titles? Where are you based out of?
Yeah, no, really great question. So, right, we all in this world wear many hats. And so as you mentioned, of course, I am the founding executive director for AHEAD. We've been around in a number of different capacities for about 4 years, kind of finding our way. The environment has been quite dynamic. But really pleased with where we are now. And then my full-time job, I am a professor, a clinical associate professor of hospitality at the Tisch Center of Hospitality and Tourism, which is within NYU, which is also a part of the School of Professional Studies. So, really grateful to have the bandwidth and the capacity to lead ahead while also doing some really cool stuff. Within my professorship role, I'm also the executive director of workforce development and apprenticeships. So we have really created a state-of-the-art partnership with AHLA Foundation, where any apprentice can now receive up to 27 credit hours for their apprenticeship work that can be applied to an associate's degree program. So we certainly have a lot cooking, but one day at a time, one step at a time, and I just feel extremely blessed to be in these roles and to be able to partner with cool folks like you, and at some point in the future, Davon and many other great hospitality leaders. So yeah, so that's just a little bit about me.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. Like you said, absolutely a lot cooking. That's a lot of different recipes. So tell me, when you all, again, higher ed has the stigma of being, very rigid and rooted in the academy and not being flexible. When you came up with the opportunity, or when the university decided to pursue this path, what did that look like for you all to say, hey, we're going to focus on apprenticeship, we're going to focus on workforce development? And some people may say that that's not necessarily the original mission or vision, or I don't know, but I'm curious to hear what was the thought process to get you all down this path, and how long you been working on that, man? Because it sounds super dope for people to go out there and get work experience with such a practicum based foundational industry. Obviously, we have a myriad of other capacities, but what did that look like at the genesis for you all to start really engaging in that thought partnership, and then being able to engage the foundation to really get this launched in the fashion that you have?
Yeah, no, really great question. And I some in some aspects I can take a lot of credit, but in some, when you start talking about the origin of this, I cannot. So if we pan out just a little bit, When we talk about apprenticeships, and if you, many of us are well traveled, spend a little time in Europe, apprenticeships is almost sort of a normal thing in the European environment, and it's also very normal in other disciplines. And you think about very applied hands-on like engineering, electrician, and even medicine, right? Most physicians and folks who come from those very sort of very applied fields have to get an apprenticeship before they can go on to their next step or stage. And so the concept of apprentice has been around for quite some time. However, it hasn't formally been applied into hospitality. And so my boss, Associate Dean Nick Graff, and then also his boss, Dean Angie Kamath, both of them have a very sort of global perspective on apprentices. Um, Dean Angie Kamath came from, doing work with the city of New York. And so there's been a lot of focus on creating apprenticeship opportunities all across the business world, particularly here in New York. And so, one would say I was sort of recruited to, once the framework was set, I've become known as a bit of a closer, somebody who knows how to get things done. And so Dean Graff was introduced to me because of the work that I was doing with the head. I also, had some familiarity with the Marriott, the J. Willer Alice S. Marriott Foundation, which ultimately is a main funder for this particular program. And so once I was on board, my thought process was, how do we, be efficient and do what we do well, right? I started canvassing the environment and realized, okay, well, AHLA is doing an apprenticeship program. They have to get my hands on that curriculum and, their apprenticeship curriculum to our academic requirements. And it took a little over a year to fully complete that process. Most of it's just sort of higher ed bureaucracy, and with some state approvals, but ultimately we were able to get it done. And so now this truly is a gateway opportunity for, folks who have already completed an apprenticeship once they receive their certificate from the Department of Labor. That then gives our admissions team the ability to scan which of those learning domains were completed from their apprenticeship program, and we've been able to map them directly to our course credit. So, in short, the journey has probably been going for a couple of years. It's about 4 years in the making, and then I've been working at it, pretty diligently for about the last year and a half. And so we're anticipating our first cohort to begin this coming January. And we're really excited about it. And so we've been able to complete our articulation agreement with AHLA Foundation, and then we also have some warm relationships with NAF, the National Academies Foundation, because they're a very important player in this ecosystem of hospitality high school students. And so we want to make sure that we're creating these opportunities for young folks and or the working professional who's looking to kind of retool their skill sets as well. So thank you for that question.
Man, so when I that's a lot, my brother. When I started thinking about all those moving pieces, the Department of Labor, you all, I feel like this got announced somewhere like within the last 180 days, and you're teeing up for that first cohort in January. So, I mean, if I was a high school student or somebody maybe even a few years out that was in the industry, I may have gotten bitten by the bug. And we know that a good thing about our beloved industry is that ability to work your way up to really, transition from job to career. Um, and the just the endless opportunities that are there by you starting sometimes at those entry level jobs, right? And now you being able to marry that with that formal education in the classroom, but also receive that the credit for the work experience that you've gotten is truly innovative. So if somebody's listening to this, where do they find out more information about that apprenticeship so that they can lock in and potentially become a participant?
Absolutely. No, really, really great question. Appreciate that. So our website is now fully launched. It's sps.nyu.edu. And then within the search field, you can just put in AAS Associates, AA, which stands for Associates of Applied Science in Hospitality Management. So, I think the website is definitely going to be the best option for you to get more information. Of course, you can also email me as well as my colleague. There's sort of a team of two of us that's sort of diligently working on this. And my email is bb3796 at nyu.edu. And then the last person you could potentially reach out to would be my colleague Daisy Wayne. Her email is dlw8764 at nyu.edu. So we are open for business, happy to help. And to your point, Amari, we really are just trying to be an additional pathway for folks who've been working in hospitality and maybe their career has stalled, or maybe, they're at a supervisory role and they have a ton of experience, but you know, we can now give them credit for that prior learning, so that industry learning that they already have. And then the other cool thing about this program is that we have the capacity to offer it 100% online. So there could be that daunting thought of, I need to relocate, and you certainly don't. But if you're in and around the New York area, we'd love to have you sit in some of our classes. If you're part of this program, so you can get that traditional experience. But if you're located anywhere outside of the New York tri-state area, then please know that you can, participate in this program completely virtually. So we're really excited about this offering, and we think it will be an industry game changer.
I know it will, man. That last tidbit, I think, is the that man. You got to lead with that, my brother. That you don't have to be in New York. I love that piece, right? Because again, for in my rudimentary mind, I'm like, man, New York costs a lot, and all these other type of things. But if I'm, from the South Side of Chicago, if I'm from, Flint, Michigan, I can participate in this program and I don't have to leave the comfort of Phoenix and that cost of living to go to New York to still be able to participate. I'm sure it is encouraged, absolutely, but I think that's great, and it's a good opportunity of higher education really being of service and being committed to advancement. So when you start thinking about that from a workforce planning perspective, from you being able to have really a visionary comprehension of what pipelining looks like of talent. So obviously, so you're running the executive director position there, and that's an innovative approach. What does it mean? What does the mission of Ahead mean to you? What from a talent and pipeline conversation? How has that kind of kept you energized, kept you fed? How has the industry received what Ahead is doing? So I guess you should probably start off with telling folks a little bit about Ahead, what it is, what they do,
Yeah.
and would love to hear the feedback of how you all are being received.
Absolutely. No, appreciate that. So I'll do sort of the the quick hat switch here, right? And there's some overlap, right? There's definitely some strategic overlap in the work that we do with the head, and the work that we're doing with NYU, because all of this is about the talent pipeline. What does tomorrow's talent pool look like? How do we get people informed about really what hospitality is? I mean, so many people, we stay in hotels, we eat at restaurants, we fly on airplanes, but we really have no idea what the industry is. Even some, you know, high school teachers, right, might be teaching the topic, but may not necessarily know the intricacies of destination management organizations and and the finance and revenue opportunities that exist. So Ahead began really, that was, the concept for Ahead, or really just a really raw framework for Ahead, was born down at through what was called an idea distillery for a very large liquor distributing company. This was an outcome of their sort of George Floyd moment. And then they thought, well, if we are interested in helping people better understand and reconcile hospitality,
Did they
uh,
offer samples during this distillery? I'm just curious. Is that how this all happened? We got
not
some
quite, not
beverages.
quite.
Okay. Okay.
Definitely a pun and play on words as a liquor distributor. They wanted to just distill ideas to, which was a really, innovative concept. I think that the organization at the time is comprised of about 20,000 employees. They're one of the largest liquor distributors in the U.S. And so where a lot of organizations, we can argue about, how effective their responses to, that particular era was. They did a company-wide idea sort of search, think tank, if you will. And one of the ideas that arose was, we need to make sure that folks are better informed about hospitality education and ultimately that organization seed funded and endowed his professorship role at FIU. So I, landed in that role, was truly honored to be selected, and then was tasked with creating an alliance. So ahead was really just the thought, the raw concept is that there needed to be an alliance that focused on talent pool, that focused on helping folks from diverse backgrounds understand what hospitality is and how they get opportunities to engage, but then also to educate industry leaders about the complexities of that talent pool. So that was sort of the raw framework that was inherited. And then, me being a very collaborative person, I realized that if we wanted to do this work and we wanted it to have scalability, then we would need to have sort of a highly respected board that would come from diverse sort of pockets of hospitality. And so for my first couple of months, that's what I did. I went on a quest to find some of the best and brightest minds in hospitality. And the board, of course, has evolved over the time from then to now. But what has remained consistent is that we've had at the VP level of higher leadership from Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, JLL, a few liquor distributors and supplier companies, as well as some other, high power academic institutions have been at the table in the development of this concept. And things have evolved, society has shifted. We now sort of have a less focus on diversity, if you will, and really have a laser focus on the youth generation and getting them excited and engaged. Our mission really is to transform the hospitality industry by intentionally uplifting and amplifying a culture representative of untapped talent. And so we do that through networking, recruitment, as well as exposure for students. And then, so how does that, like, what is the real world application of that? We really kind of have two signature initiatives. One is what we call our campus takeover, which you and I will talk about that, I'm sure, in just a moment. But then the other arm that we have is a recruitment arm. We recognize that demographic populations are shifting. We're recognizing that fewer and fewer people are graduating high school because, again, our birth rates have started to decline. And we also understand that there's a perception challenge among young people that hospitality, you cannot have sort of a thriving career, a promising or financially rewarding career in hospitality. So we want to challenge those perceptions and or misperceptions. Although we also recognize the industry does have some work to do. Some of that perception is grounded in reality, but we also recognize that the industry and a lot of young people may not fully understand what those opportunities are that go beyond that line level opportunity. And so we now have partnerships with several universities. Right now, our beta market is the Northeast. And so we have partnerships with Penn State, Temple, Rochester Institute of Technology, of course, Howard University, Maryland Eastern Shores, Delaware State, Virginia State, and Morgan State. And what we are doing is we have a full slate of college expos and events that either we're attending or hosting, where we can get in front of young people and tell the story of what hospitality really is. And then we also just rolled out our CRM system so that once we meet those young people, we can then facilitate introductions between them and those institutions that we just outlined. So that's one of our arms. And then ultimately, our goal is to try to impact the enrollment class of 2026. And so, we'll be watching the data very carefully. We have some modest projections that we hope we might be able to impact the enrollment class by about 20 students for 2026, because we are a really small team. It's myself and it's one other person who's focused on the recruitment arm. We're in the process of onboarding an intern who will assist with some of that recruitment. But we have a lot of volunteers and what we consider sort of ducks pedaling under the water. We have a really close relationship with a group of Cornell alums. They provided some very important funding support that allowed us to hire our recruitment manager, and to do some of the work that we're doing from the recruitment side. And then lastly is our campus takeovers. you know, when doing something innovative, sometimes it can be a challenge for people to fully comprehend the vision and scale and the scope. So we've had three outings with various levels of success. Our very first outing was at Delaware State. I know the program director there very well. And Delaware State in Dover, it's not the most accessible destination. So there were some industry challenges, and then also just some overall challenges with, in most colleges of business, a lot of the deans are very cold on hospitality and what that could mean. I've noticed that that's a key trend among college of businesses. And so we showed up, we showed out, we put on a really great exhibition. I don't know that our industry partners left with the sort of the ROI that they were hoping for, but it was a great sort of test run, where industry was able to see the potential for what it was that we were building. Our next stop, we went to MSU Denver, really beautiful institution. The current dean there is actually was one of the founding members of AHEAD. So we had complete buy-in from the dean there. We just think we missed the mark on timing. I think it may have been too close to finals time. And so we didn't have the turnout, but we showed up, we showed out, we put on a really great exhibition. The CEO of Sage Hospitality was our keynote speaker. He was blown away, and he also knows the president of the university. And so, we've earned enough political favor that we are going to go back and have much wider support from the university. And last but not least, of course, and closely, um, what I think most people would suggest is we put on, excuse my French, we put on a heck of a show at Howard University. And really, that's in part because we had an amazing partner in yourself, the Marriott Sorensen Center, and the amazing students that you all have. So we really applied a lot of what we learned from, some of our lesser than dynamic outings, and really tried to apply that. We activated a team of 22 ambassadors, and again, we also had two interns and a fellow, which would not have been possible, Amari, without your support. And were all things perfect? Absolutely not. Did we learn a lot? 100%. But we think we really, all of the industry feedback. We have a survey circulating. There were about 20 sponsors. The last time I checked was about a day ago. We had about 9 responses, and all of those responses have been overwhelmingly positive. All of the industry sponsors indicated that they were able to hire, that they had talent in their pipeline, and that they will look forward to coming back in the future. So we really put on an amazing display. And another piece that not very many people really understand is that how comprehensive that day actually was.
Yeah.
Um, We started with high school students at 8:30 in the morning. We had about 70 high school students in the room. They got FaceTime with all of those universities that we mentioned earlier. We had those 22 ambassadors who were doing some fundraising. We leaned into our industry partners and they all donated, hospitality experiences, whether it be hotel stays or other stays. So those students, the cost of education is continuing to rise. And so the students were able to sell raffle tickets and we were able to do a 50-50 split. I think one of the highest ticket sales, a student may have raised a little over $2,000. And so we were able to cut a check for them for about $1,000. So that was a layer. Those same 22 ambassadors receive what's called the Clifton Strengths Assessment. And then during that day, they actually got a presentation from their results. And Amari, I'll never forget one of your students approached me and said, Professor Brian, I'm a senior. And that Clifton Strengths Assessment was exactly what I needed. I mean, it truly warmed my heart. It was these layers of what we were trying to execute. And really what makes a world of a difference is just having a good partner who understands the vision and has the resources to support the goal. So I'll stop there, man, but that's just a very long-winded version of ahead and what we're doing in our two arms and sort of how they all come together.
No, that's a great overview, and I appreciate that feedback and share that sentiment about what we accomplished on this campus October 16th. Again, not possible without the support of our of the ahead interns, right? Destiny, Nina, Esteban, we appreciate y'all as interns and fellows, and then all the ambassadors, like the way that they locked in really helped amplify what was happening, how it was happening. And it wasn't all Howard students, right? We had ambassadors from Virginia State, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, where I used to be an adjunct. With Virginia State, like I said, I used to be on the advisory board for the hospitality program. Cheney University, the first HBCU and the first university I ever taught at. So for me to also have former students from other HBCUs participate, right? I'm there. One of the Cheney students, had me as a professor before. For me to be able to have former professors that are now at other institutions be there, and just to really see that full circle of peers, and more importantly, us really being able to facilitate and help set the table for a lot of these other HBCUs that just, again, not due to talent, more so due to geography and a lot of firms' resources, they may not be able to touch their campus. So these students may not be able to have access to a lot of the things that Ahead is teeing up, and that's something that I've always wanted to solve for. And what really got me excited about the executive director role here at the Muriel Sorensen Center for Hospitality Leadership, us being able to partner with Ahead and execute three concurrent programs. The high school program Professor DeBarker just spoke about, a major activation on the yard, everything from popcorn to bouncy houses, double digit employers, all hospitality related. I mean, a DJ, and then have panels going on, and have a really mind blowing and just table setting experience with that opening session, right, where we're pulling out chairs because people showed up, and people were super engaged and excited to hear about all these different opportunities. And to your point, some of the testimonials that we're hearing from the industry was, in short, great ROI. They loved it being able to engage with, come to Howard, meet the Howard students, meet the Cheney students, the UMES, the all of those things, right? We have a pipeline here, so we really enjoyed that partnership with Ahead and what you guys were able to offer, and your phenomenal team. And I mean, Desiree and Sela, like the way that those folks just really, showed up and put on, and really helped amplify what was happening here already at campus. But that day was just next level, and to see the industry's feedback, to see the students' engagement, and to follow up, and even have a student say that they got an on-the-site job offer, on like on the site job offer, right? And then that paperwork, and it wasn't just the job offer. The paperwork actually came through in about 72 hours. So there was, as the kids say, no cap. That's a legit ROI. And one thing that I think that Ahead shares, that the Myriad Sorensen Center for Hospitality Leadership shares, that Professor Barker, that Mr. Head shares, is this really aggressive and innovative approach to talent pipelining, and just being able to find these unique solutions for the talent that our industry needs. It's a dynamic industry. It's changing. Some of the old ways are good, but there's also some great innovations that are happening. So appreciate that partnership, and looking forward to potentially doing it again, man. I think that there's a lot more work to be done, a lot of wood to chop, and enjoy working with cats like yourself to get some of these solutions executed. So just what, any kind of closing words or that you would want to leave the audience with, so we know how to get in touch with you for the apprenticeship. How do we find out more information about Ahead and the next road tour?
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And I echo all of those sentiments that you shared. I thought we had a really amazing outing. It was special to your point. And, I definitely want to learn a little bit more about that student who got that offer because I heard about it too, but not the details. But for Ahead, you can find us at theahead.org, theahead.org. And then we are also on LinkedIn as well as Instagram. You can simply just look up Ahead, AHEAD, hospitality, and find us there. And then we're theahead.org on Instagram. So yeah, man, we had an amazing outing. We're gearing back up to do MSU Denver. We're really excited. That's going to be March the 18th. So we're excited about that. Again, thrilled to have that great partner with Sage Hospitality. I mean, they're sort of a bit of a titan in the industry. So March 18th, we're going to Denver. And absolutely, man, we want to come back to Howard and do it again. I mean, again, for all the feedback, it was great, but you know, I didn't talk much about my industry experience, but with Four Seasons, it's, you know, you always want to be critical of what can be better. So there's quite a few things, from a programmatic standpoint, a timing standpoint, engagement with the students, right? I mean, there's just opportunities that we can improve on. So I think, you and I discussed we're going to watch the Howard um, homecoming announcement. And, as soon as they announce the Howard homecoming dates, then we would hopefully like to slot in a week before. It seems like it was a really good time. People were excited in anticipation of homecoming, and we were able to kind of hit the campus real hard with something special just before that. So I'm excited about the future, and we truly look forward to helping the industry move ahead together, pun intended. And thank you for this opportunity to collaborate, and can't wait to do it again.
Absolutely, my brother. I appreciate it, man. Much love. And man, this has been another glorious episode brought to you by CoStar News in partnership with Next Gen and Lodging. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and please like and subscribe for more of this content.
Hi, I'm CoStar's Jan Freitag.
And I'm STR's Isaac Collazo. Together, we are the data geeks behind the award-winning podcast Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast from CoStar News.
Award-winning. And if you love hotel performance data and industry trends as much as we do, check us out.
We laugh, we argue, and we always come up with fresh takes on the data and hotel industry topics that help you do business.
Hey, when Isaac and I start talking about data together, anything can happen, and anything usually does.
Find us on costar.com/hotel news and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen. Just search for Tell Me More, and thank you for listening.
This episode of Next Gen and Lodging was recorded in October of 2025 and was edited by Rachel Daub. Look for this and more at costar.com/hotel news and subscribe wherever you like to listen to your podcasts.